cafe anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Hi, how are you today? Okay. I'm good, that's thanks. Hey, you know what's the Tuesday before Christmas, so we have to do a
Mike's Daily Podcast.
A show where I talk about stuff and then you go, wow, and then we go, hey, and that was the end of the show. And then things happen, like we go outside, we go to cafe anyway, and don't you know there are people like Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster waiting for us.
Hold on.
Wow. Something has just gotten into my brain. Trust me. It's interesting what I just discovered.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
That next year will be 10 years that I've been doing this podcast. Yes. What?
Mike's.
You just discovered it?
Daily.
You just went, wow.
Podcast.
You just went, what? And
yeah.
You found this podcast. Well, that's right. It has been that long. I started it 10 years ago because podcasts, I found, were fascinating. People could do all kinds of things, could break the rules, do all kinds of fun stuff, not have to worry about
how's the mic, Mike?
FCC rules or anything like that, and be their own selves, and you could do it at home, and people could buy some equipment and bam, they were podcasting. And I guess it's still interesting to me now. Now that I say that all out loud, it sounds kind of boring. But yet, I think everyone can and should. And actually, this past year, someone that I talked to got into it himself and has his mom on and does a great podcast with her called Mornings with Maria. So I guess my point is that you never know until you try. Maybe you could be doing a podcast. Maybe you do a podcast now. Maybe you are somebody that likes to go to these big parties and go to super spreader events. Because that's what a party is, basically. You should just call it a super spreader event. Although I understand we need to go and see our family and friends.
And here's today's podcast picture.
And talk with them and go, hey, Merry Christmas. And the podcast picture has to do with Merry Christmas. A very, Merry Christmas with a very sick Santa. I saw this picture in Podcastro Pleasanton. Actually, we're broadcasting from Podcastro Valley. Did I say that? The last place on earth, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. So this was in Pleasanton. See it at mikesdailypodcast.com. I am getting used to working from home again. Although, now, when you're home, do you sometimes think, Basil. Oh, I miss walking my Basil. We had so many great walks together. Yes, a year ago, I was walking him because he couldn't stand on his back legs. I had to lift up his back legs, and walking with his front legs was getting more and more difficult. The late, great Basil the Boxer. Another reason why we're so happy to see 2020 go. Wow. Everybody, I was having a discussion today with someone. Everybody lost somebody in 2020, it seemed, or had some kind of loss of some sort. Just an awful year. It was sort of a comeuppance in humanity, in our world, where we finally had to look some stuff in the face and go, no. There's this thing called reality, a cold, hard morning when you wake up and you go, oh, what happened? I guess we had to get over that and realize we're all in this world together. Stuff can spread around the planet like it always has. You look at history. There have been all kinds of diseases that have killed people. And we hadn't had one big, huge, major worldwide one. And now we did. I mean, we get flus all the time and stuff like that, but the coronavirus perplexed everyone, all the experts. So it's good to get rid of that. And then we had to, we're not going to get rid of it when it turns 2021. But it'll be nice to say, okay, because we've all now adapted to that in some way. Adapted to wearing masks or adapted to not wearing masks and getting yelled at and thrown out of stores or getting yelled at by our friends. And maybe you should be yelled at, because basically I did have this discussion recently with someone that wearing the masks has helped us not catch not only coronavirus, but we've missed out on all kinds of stuff that we shouldn't be catching. Maybe made us healthier as a country. Will we still wear masks once we've all been vaccinated? And well, that's not going to happen either. We're all not going to get vaccinated. It's wishful thinking. There are people that are going to hold out and go, no, I'm afraid. I don't know what's in that stuff. Meanwhile, they go and they eat chips. Or, as they call it in England, crisps. They eat chips. What is in that bag that you just purchased for like 5 chips that's inside that bag? That's always upset me with potato chips. You don't get that much. You're just a couple. If I want to feast on the potato that's been altered and all kinds of, as if Jesus has turned water into wine. The chemical companies have taken a potato and laced it with all this salt and this yummy where you can't eat one. And the crunch, it just entices you and you're just addicted. It's terrible. Yes, I had a potato chip addiction. And I just can't, I gotta stay away. Yet you will not get a vaccine. You will put that in your body, but not do that. I don't know. We have to back up and survey things. I hate when things happen at work where everybody's tempers flare up. And we've had a couple of those situations happen lately. And you just have to try and figure out what's the deal. Eventually people calm down. But gosh, as we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. This should be a time of merriment, of happiness, peace and love towards your fellow human. Or as Carl Sagan would say, human. And look who's here right now. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing?
It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player, tell you what.
What?
I'm not going to get that vaccine.
You're not?
No, because I saw Joe Biden get it, and that tells me that it's a lie, and it's a conspiracy to kill all people that do not put the hydrochloroformatomin in my body.
The what?
The other stuff.
Oh, the stuff that Trump was touting earlier on that was supposed to be good for you? And yeah, well, listen, at some point, you may want to consider helping out your fellow person. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to have the vaccine. At any rate, it's here. And now, and think of a world where if we didn't have it. So, it's whatever. I'm sure there's a lot of people who like to chime in on it at 336mm daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM is in Mike Matthews. Daily isn't what this podcast has not been lately. Sorry. But yeah, with all the tempers flaring and chaos and pandemonium that was happening recently, I had to take some time to just reevaluate in my world. However, I did see some amazing movies over the past couple of days, and I had to do something really crazy on Sunday. I had to, actually, that led to something that we did today. As part of working from home, we decided to skip off during my lunch break and went to a place that sells these plumbing devices. Not the auger thing where you hold it with your hand, kind of like a gun, looks like a laser gun from a 1960s sci-fi movie. I'm talking like the bigger one that's like 50 feet, like a ½ inch thick. And it's still, it retailed for less than $300, but of course with tax and everything, it was over. But still, I've got this thing now. We got that today. Partly in part due to something that happened on Sunday, where I go to take a shower, and at the bottom of the shower, the water's not draining. So I get my little laser gun, 1960s laser gun device that has a cable that comes out, and I try to unclog it. It doesn't work. Of course, I'm using the plunger. That doesn't work. I just grab all kinds of different wires and, hanger wires and all that, and I'm trying to poke it down the pipe. That doesn't work. What finally worked was something that a neighbor of mine lives down the street. He told me, one thing you can try is you get the garden hose, you bring it into the shower or whatever drain is clogged up, and you shove the garden hose down the drain as far as it can go, and then you shove a bunch of rags in there to really hold it firm and to keep that pressure in there. Then you turn the water on. Well, luckily my lovely lady friend was around, and we had a way to communicate with each other. So I did this technique, and that is what finally got it to work. It flushed out whatever was down there. And I've had to do some kind of work on that drain probably every 2 years or so. So that was my comeuppance with that. And it worked. Oh, I was so happy. The elation. And then I was so sore, and I'm still sore. My back still hurts because those handheld augers are a pain, especially when you're trying not to drop it into the water because there's water in the bottom of the shower, and you've got the auger attached to an electric drill with a battery that if it gets wet, at least the kind I get, it ain't going to work anymore. That was my Sunday. So no podcast that day. And then yesterday was trying to clean up all the stuff that went wrong over the weekend and other stuff. And gosh, I just love this time of year. But I hope you do, because it's going to get better, is all I'm trying to say. And sometimes you got to go, I'm going to take that vaccine. And other times you got to go, I'm going to shove a hose down that drain and see if it works. Not that it's going to work for you, but it happened to work for me. And sometimes you take a chance and it works great, and other times you take a chance and you go, aha, or ABBA. Take a chance on me. Oh, the 2 movies I saw, both music related. One was Rocket Man. That's been out for a while now. So it's a musical. I didn't get the memo that it was a musical. I mean, obviously, it's got Elton John songs in it. There's going to be some singing. But I thought it was going to be more like the Queen thing, where it was more of a biopic, and you actually see the reenactment of some of the scenes that happened, even though it was not completely true to fact. This, the Elton John thing, it was a musical. So a little bit, fantastical and fantasy, and what's this? Did that actually happen? What? Everything's an amalgam of all kinds of stuff. And then you get to hear the Elton John songs. Although the song I would have liked to have heard, which was not in the musical or movie, The One. That was a great song. Came out early 1990s. And was like his song talking about how he was cleaning himself up and all that. And changing his life. That was a great one. Well, and Blessed. That was another one a couple of years later. My mom loves that song. Sacrifice wasn't even in that. There's a word in Spanish. Oh, wait. No, not the best song. But, hey, not that... It could be worse. And what's the other one? Because I'm not going to go on with you like that. Which, by the way, I think he wrote that after he went through his divorce. He was married to a woman. He got divorced. And then kind of started to work towards changing his life, but it wasn't until, was it Brian White, the name of the kid that died, who had contracted AIDS, but it was like through a blood transfusion, and Elton John really got into the whole helping out find a cure for AIDS, and did all the fundraisers, and I think worked with Elizabeth Taylor on that. But none of that was mentioned in Rocket Man. I guess they didn't want to get too far into his later history. Lion King. Forgot about Lion King. Something about the way you look tonight. Candle in the Wind. We really didn't get the full song. I know I'm nitpicking now, but we didn't get the Princess Diane version of Candle in the Wind, which went to number 1, broke all kinds of records when that song came out. At any rate, it was good to see that. And also the Mama Rainey's Black Bottom was fantastic. The last movie with Chadwick Boseman. The amazing Viola Davis is in it. And a bunch of other actors I've never seen before, but I hope to see again. What a great movie. Was it August Wilson? I hope I got the name right. I had never heard of him until seeing this. So I'm going to definitely check out some of his other works. An amazing playwright. He's no longer with us, but August did some great dialogue in this movie that came from a play. And that was also very uplifting and good to see. Not to give Netflix a plug. I'll give them a slug. There's so much bad stuff on Netflix, except, I got one more thing. A thing about a guy traveling, and I can't remember the name of this darn show, but he's traveling around the South Pacific countries with his dad, who's 76, and they're both British, and the dad's really old and stodgy, and this kid is all into raves and that kind of stuff, and super spreader events. That's on Netflix too. Okay, one more person.
Oh, I can make the delicious root beer. Have some right now.
You know, my lovely lady friend really wanted to see you because she really enjoys your eggnog root beer, and she wanted some. She's going to make that coquito.
Okay, that sounds good. Oh, boy.
I don't know why I want to cough after drinking a root beer. Next show, it's going to be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. Hopefully, we will talk to you before Christmas. If you would like to chiming, you can call 336-MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast will try to be. Oh, hey, Deep Blue something. I just saw that outside Cafe Anyway in the CD rack that's out here. Breakfast at Tiffany's by the band Deep Blue something. And I said, what about Breakfast at Tiffany's? The only hit they ever had, but hey, not the worst album in the world, called Home. I'll leave you with that thought. Okay, take it away, A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!